everybody. I'm Stepahnie Gottswald from the Global Literacy Project and from Tufts University. And I'm here to give you, just as Wendy said, a really quick update on the Global Literacy Project. The little bit of background is that this project started as a research collaboration between MIT, Tufts University, and Georgia State University. And what we were interested in addressing is the enormous problem of illiteracy across the world. There's around 157 million children in the world who either don't have access to school at all or only have access to severely under-resourced schools. And so the question that we were posing is whether or not the kinds of material that creative, exciting people like you are putting out there can be given to children in these places to empower their ability to become literate. So the real question we're posing is whether or not children can learn to read on their own because they have very limited access to the kind of playmakers that Steve was talking about, using content given to them by mobile devices, and can we collect data using those mobile devices in order to find out how enriching this experience is, how much we need to change to make it even more exciting for them. And the real issue that we're putting forth is whether or not children can guide their own learning using their own curiosity. Right now, we're serving around 1,100 million children around the world. We're serving children in communities where they have no school at all, but also children who have only very limited access to school. So some of our children, while they have the opportunity to go to school, that may be only for 2 hours a day in classrooms where they're sharing the attention of a single adult with 50, 60, 70, 80 other children. We are in communities in Ethiopia, in urban slums in Uganda and India, in township schools in South Africa, and we're also in preschools in the rural US, where we know that those kids also have very limited opportunities to gain the kind of academic vocabulary that they need in order to be successful in school. Those kids are already at least a year behind before they even walk in the door. The content that we provide the children is based on what we have learned, the enormous amount of research on what it takes to be a good reader. So we know that children need to gain a great deal of knowledge about oral language, about whatever alphabet it is that they're learning to read in. They need to gain such really sophisticated knowledge about how that system is represented. But as you can see from the red stars up there, there's not actually all that much content available. So the red stars tell us where we have ready access to content in these areas, and you see all the spots in this app map where there are no red stars. That means we don't have access to content right now in the higher levels of learning to read, and we need that content in order to give children access to the exciting content that could give them the ability to learn to read either in English or in any other language. But what we are doing is we're learning some very, very crucial lessons about how children interact with the kind of content that we give them. The basic message behind this data behind me is that the very, very high levels of usage are characterized by content that's highly interactive. So even kids in remote Ethiopia, where you would think that, oh, they'll be excited for anything that we give them, they're not interested in ebooks that have zero interactivity. They want stuff that they can touch, they want stuff that they can influence, they want stuff that they can change and play with, even if they don't even have a light switch in their home. We also know that their behavior changes over time. So the app or the graph that you see on, let's see here, on your left, that particular graph is telling us that in places where children have access to the tablets for a great deal of time, that they go from just kind of randomly opening and closing apps to a period of time where they start to choose to spend a great deal more time with a particular app. They begin to dwell in particular content areas, the areas that interest them, the areas that are in that zone of proximal development where it's not too hard and it's not too easy. And then the other graph that's on some other side of your body tells you that the more they do that, their learning increases incredibly. So increase in learning is associated with increased dwell time. So what's happening in the next year? We are increasing the number of content partnerships that we have. Presently, we have a partnership with over 20 content developers. Many of them we met right here at Sandbox Summit last year. We're also beginning to develop new deployments in approximately 5 to 6 countries around the world, both in under-resourced schools. We're receiving a lot of requests from preschools, both in this country as well as in other countries, in order to combine both what we know teachers do well with what we know technology can do well. And of course, we're also trying desperately to reach those children who presently have no access to school. We forget that the window of time to reach those children is very, very small. If they don't have access to some kind of educational content between the ages of 7 and 11 years old, it's gone. It's over. By 11, they're working. They're not going to go to school anymore. And we also are engaging in research partnerships with universities and NGOs around the world who want to do the kind of work that it takes to figure out what's not only effective, but of course what's really exciting and what's engaging. If you're going to get kids to teach themselves, then what you put in front of them has to be exciting. It has to be interesting. And it has to increase that time that they're going to spend within any one particular app. But this is really an all-hands-on-deck endeavor. The beauty of the Global Literacy Project is we don't believe that we have the answer. What we believe is that we can provide a platform where lots of different answers have to be tried out and lots of different answers can be found. We need exciting, interesting people who are willing to help us create apps so that children can learn to read not just in English, which will help them potentially economically as adults, but we also know it's important for them to learn to read in their own mother tongue. That's the most effective first step. We also know we need much, much more material, both culturally relevant material, but interactive ebooks. We can't just continue to plot books inside some kind of app and say, look, we made an ebook. It has to be the kind of content and stories and narrative that children can interact with. We also need apps that go way beyond learning how to identify letters. You know, a child is not done learning how to read in mid-first grade. They're not ready to read War and Peace by the time they get to the beginning of second grade. There's a lot more that they need to learn in order to become deep and reflective readers. And we need people to develop the kind of content that gives them those skills. And finally, you know, STEM is always available, or I should say STEAM, is always necessary, especially for these kids who, yes, it's great that they have a stick and dirt and they have the opportunity to draw in what's around them. But they also need access to the kind of 21st century creativity that is going to be necessary for them to be a part of this world, which is what they're so hungry for. So we need you, all of you, to help us reach these kids and find out what's going to push them into this world. And thank you very much.